So, you wanna know how I made this? I got you. Welcome, esteemed guests, to another video. I'm your host Animatai, and this is meant to be just a production process, but due to the request of the grand total of one person, one very cool person by the way, I'm delving a bit more into the technical stuff in this video and sharing some tips along the way with you guys. So feel free to follow along while making your own animation meme if you feel that my guidance is good enough for this to be considered a full-blown tutorial, or draw with me or whatever. And now without further ado, let's get into it. To be fair, I didn't need to think too much for this one. All I did was find a cool trend on TikTok I could follow and do the video. But still, this part is a bit convoluted, so stay with me here. So I first came across this video by Luna and a bunch of others, and I decided I was gonna participate in the trend. I searched for the original video to give credits to, and the original video did not have the magnifying glass I saw in pretty much everyone else's videos. I don't know where or when that magnifying glass started to be a big part of this trend, but I know I kept it. One thing that always helps me, from making original memes to following trends, is to listen to the audio a couple times and try to visualize what you want to do. And once that's done, you break it down into simpler steps in the direction of what you want the final thing to look like. This will be explained in more detail later on during the editing part, but if you want your project to feel less intimidating, you should think about that before you get to drawing. As for which of my characters I was gonna use, it had to be Carter. It had to be Carter! Who else would treat flirting like a literal strategy than Mr. Local Strategist here? No one! The answer is no one. With the game plan done, it was time to draw out the stuff I will need. My original plan was to draw Carter leaning down for the chorus, as you can see in the first sketch. And as you can see in the first sketch, and the fact that it's not here anymore, I was struggling. Ultimately, I decided this pose wasn't going to work, but for some reason I really wanted to draw perspective that day. Hopefully that won't come back to make my life harder during tweening. So instead of looking down, he shall look up. One thing I prefer doing while drawing for animation memes is doing line art, color, and rendering all at once for each part I would need separated for tweening. That way it's much easier for me to not end up doing something on the wrong layer. While we're talking about preventing stuff from needing to be fixed later on, I made a crucial mistake right on the beginning of this speed paint. Can you guess what it is, dear viewer? There wasn't enough space to rotate the arm. I sketched this thing out visualizing how the full thing was going to fit on screen, but since the drawing was cropped, I had to make adjustments if I wanted his overcoat to show up while he moved his arm in the animation. Something I also did to his torso, just to prevent any future problems. I ended up not using it though. Yeah, that's tweening for you. The rest of the drawing process went pretty smoothly, but I didn't stop there, because I wanted to try lip syncing. So I followed the lip syncing chart I found online, already kinda dreading the amount of work this would take to edit, but I was determined to make it work. Also, I made some final adjustments to the arm and drawing the magnifying glass separately for that intro scene, which I knew I wanted to do, but I forgot to prep for it, just silly stuff. Oh, what's that? You thought the drawing phase was over? Well, it was for me that day, since I moved on straight to edit the part I had the art for, but for the sake of organization, we'll tackle everything art related in one part. For this part, I thought it'd be cool to add actual webcomic panels of Layla and Carter together, but alas, we have not reached the point where they do actually interact. So any scenes with them that we have now just wouldn't be ideal. So I went with the next best thing and drew Carter as those Justin Bieber reaction images, because why not? Those were just meant to be still images, so no thousands of layers here. And since I was drawing with a reference, it was fairly easy to get the poses down. Even though I don't like that Carter sketch. I like the finished result, but not the sketch. I feel like that's a sign I'm improving, because usually people say the sketch looks better than the finished product. I actually don't know what that means. I didn't really record the actual editing process, but here's a quick overview of the video behind the screens. As you can clearly see, compound layers are my life. Not only do they make it easier to repeat certain parts of the video while still being editable, I recently found out that CapCut has a feature that allows you to pre-render compound clips to prevent lag, which is just lovely. Another reason why compound layers are one of the best features ever, period, It's the fact that you can animate your original clip, turn it into a compound layer, and then animate the compound layer itself, which is what I was referring to back in the brainstorming process. Unfortunately, most of the cool stuff you can add, like the lyrics and the lip syncing, usually just involves sucking it up and listening to the same 5 seconds of audio 1,000 of times. But surprisingly enough, it's not exactly difficult, and at least for me, it didn't get boring. It's something you can very clearly see the progress you're making while doing it, and at some point you catch the general rhythm of the song you're syncing up with, and the whole thing just gets way easier. Lila wasn't going to show up in the video itself, but I still wanted to add a little bit of reference to her, so I made all second-person pronouns yellow since that's the main color in her design, and once I did that, I thought, hey, I could add this for Carter as well. And so all the first-person pronouns ended up being blue since that's Carter's main color. About how I planned the general composition of the animation, most of it sums up to movement. I could add Carter standing in one place while bobbing around, but I decided to add that extra pizzazz by making him move slowly to the left, for example. And that basically applies to everything, words, the background, you name it. Obviously, you can add as much movement or as little movement as you see fit, but I'm just saying, if I want polish, I add movement. And that's all from me for today. You can watch the finished meme here if you haven't already, and if you like my content then hey, maybe consider leaving a like and subscribing. Thank you for staying until the end, and until we meet again.